Hey, good evening everyone, my name is Ritwik and today I'm going to talk about cultural misrepresentation in context of something that's quite important for Indians, and that's caste. Okay, so caste is an institution that was first talked of, according to some sources, as long ago as 3000 BC. That makes it older than Greek civilization itself. But caste is not an Indian word. It was used by the British to describe something they saw in India. So where does this word come from? Well, caste comes from the Spanish word casta. Now this was used in Hispanic America to divide the society that they had conquered. The higher your casta, the whiter you were, the more privileges you had. The lower your casta, the more native you were, the less privileges you had. This was by birth and it was discriminatory. Did we have this system in India? Not really. India had Varna. Varna is occupational groups. And these occupational groups are divided on the basis of their occupation. So it's not by birth. Somebody born in a labor Varna can educate himself and become a scholar, and vice versa. Right? So this is not a discriminatory system, there's social mobility. Also there is this really well talked of class known as the untouchables. Common narrative has it that these untouchables have been outcasted by society and they are social pariahs. They're discriminated against, food is not shared with them, public space is not shared with them, etc. etc. I'm going to show that this is actually not true. This was an insertion by a foreign power and it's not something inherent to Indian society. Okay, moving on, there's certain ancient attitudes toward caste that are important because they explain a lot. So two of our most revered books, Gita and Vedas, both of them don't talk about caste being by birth or being based on purity of blood or there being hierarchy. They talk about caste being according to a person based on his qualities and his skills. Different skills are good for doing different things and hence their place in society. Of course, some have more respect than others. So caste is not a discriminatory system. When did it become discriminatory? Okay, early 1800s, Britain had taken over India, and 1857 the first war happened. Britain won, but they wanted a way to divide Indian society, and what better than to use caste? So in 1871, they had the first official census, and they declared it mandatory for people to declare their caste. Based on this, they were given different opportunities in education, in public sector work, etc. And this is where the division really happened along caste lines. So not only did they do this, they also introduced this thing known as the 1871 Criminal Tribes Act. This act ruled that a person or a group could be declared criminal and their successive generations would be criminals by birth. These criminals by birth would have no right to property, no right to livelihood, and basically they were forced into a ghetto. Over a period of 80 years, when this was in application, right, it created this class of untouchables. So it's not really an Indian thing. Two of the communities that were really affected by this are thugs and eunuchs. So thug you recognize as an English word, it means crook, somewhere around there. But they were originally a community that used to transfer messages. Nothing criminal there, but they were declared criminal. Eunuchs, a community that was accepted by Indians for a very long time, was also declared criminal and suffered under the British regime. Post-independence, caste has continued to be an issue because of the problem of reservations. Now, reservations were introduced to reverse the problem of caste by giving lower castes more opportunity. But lately they have become a way of dividing society, and since it's a political issue, even though there's a lot of hue and cry about this, not much is being done. Also, let me talk about how caste affects modern India. So, chirp, 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 chirp. Okay, these guys. Current president, current prime minister, ex-prime minister. All three of them are lower caste. These two are the chief ministers, okay, ex-chief ministers of two of the most populous states in India, also belonging to a lower caste. So clearly caste is not really a big barrier to positions of power and otherwise as well. So in summary, caste is not something discriminatory. It became discriminatory under the British regime. And post-independence, it continued to be a problem due to reservations. Now, I have all of this information available, but somehow academics don't. Because in most academia, especially Western academia, it's presented as an issue that has existed in India for thousands and thousands of years, right? This book, for example, says that the Indian caste system insults the most revered principles of Western society. This is a society that had slaves until 150 years ago based on the color of their skin, just saying. So, why is this done? Why is this misrepresentation taking place? Well, this is done to establish moral superiority. There's another example of this. Just last year, CNN correspondent Reza Aslan made a documentary on Hindus. Okay, not just on Hindus, but one of the episodes was on Hindus. And he said that Hindus have this big cult that eats brains and are cannibalistic. Now, I'm standing in front of you right now. I don't think I eat brains, but these guys seem to think so, right? So, this is used to establish moral superiority, right, by demeaning others. And this kind of moral superiority is used to justify intervention. The most famous example, 2002 Iraq invasion. So, 2002, on the pretext of weapons of mass destruction and human rights violations, Iraq was invaded, and democracy has brought Iraq from here to there, right? over 15 years, there's been no evidence of weapons of mass destruction and such. Now, there's another issue here, that's human rights. This map shows the human rights index around the world. Americas, Europe, Australia, good for human rights. Asia, Africa, not so much. But the hypocrisy here is that the countries that set these human rights index are the ones that rank the most highly on it. Furthermore, these countries don't always act in the interest of human rights. Just this year, Saudi Arabia has been voted onto the UN Women's Panel. Now, Saudi Arabia is a country that has many anti-women laws. They jail women for driving, not wearing a hijab, wearing miniskirt, and this country was voted by 46 out of 48 countries, most of them with high human rights index, into the UN Women's Panel. Historically, the trend for Western human rights has not been so good either. Whichever country was invaded by European regimes had genocide. The most famous example is Americas, where in 1637 natives were butchered, and that's celebrated to this day as Thanksgiving. So why am I ranting on about this? What's the relevance? Well, Singapore is not immune to this kind of misrepresentation either. For example, our press freedom ranks 151st in the world. Now, I know that media freedom here is questionable, but do we rank lower than countries like Zimbabwe, Uganda? Also, our human rights ranks 81st in the world, solely on the basis of us having very strict execution laws, especially with regards to drugs. Now, is this one issue overarching enough to cause this low human rights index? Okay, so to end, I'm going to relate what I've told to a current world problem, which is Rohingyas. Now, Rohingyas are a community of Muslims that live in parts of Burma and India. Recently, there's been action against them, and this has been called ethnic cleansing. Now, there's another part of the narrative, that is that they have been involved in terror activities, but this is not highlighted at all. So based on what we know, it's up to us to decide which narrative we want to support. Is it something that's in our interest or not? They may have the power to set the narrative, but we have the power to reject it. Thank you.